Let's do this. Are you ready for a comeback? Are you ready to fly? Are you ready for the moment? Get ready to ride. Calling all the fighters, calling on survivors. Are you up all nighters? We can take it higher. Let's do this. Can you feel the fire running through your veins? Now you're burning brighter, don't look away. Shout out to the legends, rising from the wreckage. Count down the seconds, it's out your engines. Let's do this. I know we've got a long way to go. I know we've got a long road home. I know we've got a long way to go. Let's do this. Are you ready for a comeback? Are you ready to fly? Let's do this. Are you ready for the moment? Get ready to ride. Let's do this. Oh, you know we're gonna do this. Oh, you know we're gonna do this. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ghostfire Media's coverage of the North-South Racing League. Tonight, we're coming to you from Concord, North Carolina, at a track that I don't believe exists any longer. But I'm Josh Laston, and with me, as always, is Mr. Adam Wood. Adam, how are you doing this week?
Fun. I didn't have to travel too far here for the Concord Motorsports Park here. But this is called they could be considered the other tricky triangle, except for it's very tiny, very short, and causes a lot of heartache for a lot of people.
From what I have gathered, these guys are definitely struggling with these laps. It's not the easiest track to navigate. Basically, you take Pocono, which is 2.5 miles, and take that down to 20% of that. And you know what? There's a lot of banking, a lot of bumps, but a lot of high-speed action, and honestly, a lot of places that these cars like to break free.
And, we talk about it week in and week out, these street stocks. They're underpowered for what they are, and you have to keep up the momentum. In this track, you got 3 corners now that are all completely different. None of them are actually the same. Each of them have different banking styles, different entries, and you got to pay attention to that and try to keep up the best momentum you can throughout all 3 of these corners here. And it's going to be difficult to try to remember exactly which corner you're at all times to get the proper entry and exit to lead up to the next corner.
So what we'll do is, before we get moving, we'll ride on board with Kerry Eschen, who is at the top of the table right now, and he's crossing the line, and then you've got a little more than a 90-degree left-hander. It's heavily banked into a 90-degree left-hander. And then this is where things can get a little bit dicey. It's turn 3. You drop down into the corner, and you really have to be wary of the throttle on the exit. You have to be wary if you're going to brake into the turn where you hit them, because the back end will start sliding around on you, both coming and going.
Yeah, turns 1 and 2 get you, a little bit of a high pace. 1 is a little bit slower than 2. The 2 is basically kind of a speed bump-ish. You kind of slow down just a little bit for it, and you carry so much momentum in the 3, and you have to really kind of roll it back down to kind of make turn 3 viable for you. Like you said, you got to worry about that braking input coming into the corner, and then you got to worry about the throttle input because these things don't have that much power, but the way your car is turned and the weight's distributed, it wants to spin out for you. So these guys got their hands full on every single corner tonight.
And it's a short lap. We're talking 17 seconds tonight for a lap. And there's next to no blinking while you're running under green flag conditions here. We're going to see quite a few people running a little bit different of lines than other people. You can, especially in turn 3, you can go in wide and hit a late apex to get a good drive off the corner, but that's when the back end will become a little bit unsettled if you're actually hitting the brakes as you go in. And yeah, it's one of probably the most difficult track that these guys are running this season.
Yeah, like you said, it's 17 seconds. You see that kind of in some cars, like at Bristol. You got 2 short runways there. You're able to kind of take a breather going down the front or back stretch. There's really no back stretch, really no front stretch here. They're all kind of equal, and it's always coming. There's never stopping of a corner, so there's no breather. These guys are just going to have to kind of take it as it is and try to remember exactly what corner they're going to all throughout the night. As we see Robbie Clavey here is out on his first lap here, trying to see what he can get.
And he's just trying to keep everything nice and tight. He does a good job. You can go a little bit over that yellow line. It'll unsettle it, but especially in turn 1, it's actually possible for you to use that to turn the car and keep things going. Turn 3, as we see him get a little bit loose, as I was running laps earlier, that's what I did pretty much every time. And now Matt Cook is provisional pole and running a second lap right now. He's got a good entry, just rolling it through the corner, making sure he's not too hard on the throttle. Goes across. He's not able to improve, but he is currently at the top of the table. And we'll jump over to Mike Alexander, who is currently trying to set his first time. He's on his second lap, and I will say these walls are unforgiving if you do brush them. So he does get across, and that puts him in second place. And now everybody's going to go ahead and keep flying around here. Gary Eschen's at the top right now with a 16.9. And he is followed up very, very closely by Ryan Johnson in second, who's actually making his way into the pits after his run. So let's jump out here. Adam Gable is looking to set his first lap, just got the out lap done. One thing I did notice in my own running, I was always faster on the second lap because tire temperature is going to make a bit of a difference trying to keep grip on this track tonight.
Okay, I want to see Gary Eschen come into the top 3 tonight. We got people out there.
We need to know why he's white chocolate.
We want to know why he's white chocolate.
We need the story there.
Yeah, so hopefully he gets up there to the booth and we can figure out this. We see Bryan Hacker right there running through, getting his first lap in here.
And the big thing that I have noticed is, yeah, I've done that once or twice, is that you really want to just get full throttle as soon as you're out of that first turn. But depending on your entry, that may not be possible as you're going through 2, because as you can see actually in the frame there, there's a wall that sticks out on the exit of turn 1 that you may not want to be coming close to that, but if you get a little too aggressive out of 1, it's gonna happen. But he's a lot tidier this time around, and let's see if he's able to hold on to it. He is, and let's see what his time is going to be, because that's enough for third to where he's actually running the same time as Ryan Johnson. There's probably thousandths of a second difference from what we can see, but right now it's Dustin Shepard, Gary Eschen, Bryan Hacker, Ryan Johnson, and Mike Alexander are the top 5. And it looks like Robbie Clavey wasn't able to get a time lap, which means he brushed a wall. Jeff Mathis yet to set a time, and Travis Hoefler. So we've got 14 out tonight. And it seems like
about 25 seconds left here of qualifying, and then we can see if we can spin another 0.
You know what? I'm hoping that's not the case, but it's a possibility.
I mean, Gary's out there. He wants you to spin a 2.
I mean, of course he does, but it's not going to be easy for these guys to run side by side. They have proved me wrong multiple times before. But we'll have to wait and see, and it's looking like my timing and scoring is screwing up. So let's do this while we're waiting for that to come up. Let's go ahead, spin, and see what our invert is for the night. And I didn't spin any to get the big ones out, or the small ones out of the way, and of course it's still 6. But I'm going to take solace in the fact that that's like a 33% invert tonight.
That's about a 45%, man. We got 14%, 14 people, 6. Yeah, that's like 45.
Okay, apparently we aren't. Don't trust my math tonight.
You're using North Carolina math tonight.
Yeah, we're switching those spots. But what just happened here? That's not supposed to be there. That's supposed to be there. So we've got an invert of 6 tonight, which means that some of these guys are going to be in a good position because it will be difficult to pass. Again, they'll prove me wrong. Always seem to. But let's go ahead and just run through the order for the evening. Our pole sitter is Dustin Shepard. 2nd is Gary Eschen. 3rd, Bryan Hacker. 4th, Ryan Johnson. 5th, Mike Alexander. Matt Cook is in 6th. Will Eastman, 7th. 8th is Devin Rogers. 9th, Rodney Huntoon. 10th, Adam Gable. 11th, Dan Janjanin. 12th, Travis Hoefler. 13th is Robbie Clavey. And rounding out the field is Jeff Mathis.
Alrighty, that's going to be your field, guys. We got 14 people showed up tonight. It's going to be a fantastic ride for everybody. Our points leader, you got that pulled up for the points?
I was going to say, let's go ahead and give a quick run through the standings. Dante Curtis is MIA today, but he's 61 points to the good over Bryan Hacker. Mike Alexander in 2nd is here. He's only 9 back from Bryan Hacker. Ryan Johnson still in the hunt, being 4 points back from Mike Alexander, 74 from Dante Curtis, and Will Eastman is in 5th, 107 back. We've got 4 races, including this one. It's still mathematically possible for Dante Curtis to be caught, but we've got a little bit of a ways.
I mean, losing out tonight's going to be a big, it's going to take a big chunk out of him. So, having that and, his race earlier in the year where equipment malfunctioned and had to race off a controller kind of took him a little bit further back in points. But other than that, he's doing a fantastic job. But, Bryan Hacker and Mike Alexander will cut some of that lead off. And, Dante's just going to have to work extra hard for the rest of these remaining races to keep up that lead.
Well, and the thing is this is only the North-South Racing League's second trip, to where it's been over 2 years. Dante Curtis won the last time around. It was Dustin Shepard with the fastest lap. He's here tonight. And we had 5 cautions last time, and it was season 1 of the North-South Racing League. But 12 lead changes, which that at least shows that we're going to have a good time tonight, getting to watch these guys running around. And kind of curious, are we going to have anything fun for us to see, or is it just going to turn into general chaos?
I think it's going to be shenanigans off of that turn 1 wall.
Well, I can live with that.
They just talked about it right now. They just talking about it. They just said start piling in somewhere. That's the general consensus from Robbie.
Well, let's wait and see where everybody is going to go ahead and start piling. I was hopeful for pit road entry because, honestly,
barrels are fun.
Barrels are always fun, and, well, that's one way to do it.
Or you just miss the barrels and hit the wall.
Hit the wall and just go flying over walls and just sheet metal everywhere. Why not? So, all right, it is time for us to get everything set up. Flop Dustin Shepard back to 6th, Matt Cook up to the front, and get things moving. The one advantage to keeping this race clean is having a relatively small field. But, again, we're talking about a very short track, to where once these guys get spread out, and if there's about a half second between them, we're still going to be covering half of a lap.
This used to be a NASCAR Dodge weekly series, as we can see there at the bottom of the frame right there. It's the little red and black little oval right there in the right at the flag stand. So it's kind of cool, and the neat things that you see here, old scan tracks.
And that there are so many tracks that I really wish I would have the opportunity to take a car around. This is one that I would absolutely love to be able to drive in real life. Got to drive 2 of the tracks in the sim. I want to drive more. I want to be like you, Adam, and have run the Roval.
But see, when you went out and drove them, for, a track day. I went out and drove it from leisurely at other people's paces would have allowed me there at the Roval. So a little bit different. You actually went out and had fun. Mine was like a little bit. But pace truck pulls off, and we're about to go racing.
Got a little while before we get to that green flag, because the pit entry is on the backstretch. Matt Cook's kind of rolling forward, waiting for that flag to fly, and they're going green and heading towards turn 1. It's going to be side by side, but Matt Cook gets clear and is going to be at the front of the pack, and it is still side by side. Mike Alexander and Ryan Johnson. Ryan Johnson throws it down the middle down low on Matt Cook, but he's not going to be able to get a good run off. But these guys are not giving an inch. We've got Gary Eschen right now.
Ooh, he gets a little loose off the corner there.
Loose.
Oh, there he goes again.
And he's holding on to it. He's going to hang on to 5th. That shuffling back was not what he wanted to see. But these guys not taking any moments to be able to get things set and moving, as Mike Alexander and Ryan Johnson still side by side. Bryan Hacker waiting in the wings for somebody to get clear. Ryan Johnson gets it up in front of the 75, and now Bryan Hacker is going to try to leave Mike Alexander on that outside line and try to get past, and now it's just going to be a freight train running past Mike Alexander.
Yeah. Bryan Hacker and Gary Eschen. Gary Eschen, though, I think he's got a little bit more pace than Bryan Hacker is right now, and looks like he's going to try and show it here, driving right underneath him right here. He really caught him pretty quickly there and was riding his back bumper. I think he just wants to get by and set sail and look for Ryan Johnson as we see Will Eastman and Bryan Hacker make a little contact there going into one.
And Bryan Hacker is falling back because of that. He's now running behind Dustin Shepard as Matt Cook. He was fast in practice last night, and he is just floating out there. Him and Ryan Johnson separating from the pack. There's nearly a second back to Gary Eschen here, and these guys are starting to get single file. And that is going to be necessary because you'll cook these tires quickly if you're trying to hold that low line all the way through.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. Gary Eschen just set the fastest lap of the race this past lap, the 17 flat. And he's just a tick faster each lap as these leaders. It's going to take him a while to catch him, but he's just slightly faster than the top two. But they're trying to pull away from him if they can. They're going to do their best to try and get him away. And Will Eastman, though, is riding that back bumper. He does not want to see Will Eastman get any bigger in front of him. He's going to try to keep him as close as possible.
And these guys just now going single file, going what I would hope is tire conservation mode. We're going to have one pit stop tonight. They're going to be able to do about 100 laps on a tank tonight with, I mean, in all honesty, tires are going to be the bigger problem. I was leaving them at about 90% after 15 laps. So, as many people will tell you, I'm not the one best judge of tire wear, because especially on a track like this, I murder the rear tire.
I mean, you have the potential to do both. I mean, it's hard to get a good braking zone here without really upsetting or disturbing the car's balance. So you're going to probably drive the car a little bit deeper than you want into the corner, which then affects the right front. But if you power off the corner, you're going to mess up the right rear. So it's a balance of trying not to do either one of those things, but also have speed. So you can't give up corner entry and exit. You got to pick it or choose one.
And we'll jump on board with the Kelly's Custom Engraving roll bar camera as Will Eastman trying to track down Gary Eschen. And these guys not seeing the front two really get any further. They're keeping the gap at about 1 second. And honestly, nearly all of that can go away in a single heartbeat with just a millisecond of a lapse of judgment.
As we see the front two, they're kind of close together. Ryan Johnson's closed the gap there on Matt Cook. He gets to about a car length and a half, almost 2 car lengths, and then closes the gap, and then kind of spaces it back out. I mean, you got to start timing your runs. Got to figure out how to set them up so you can't just ride the back bumper the whole entire time, because, like you said, at a moment's notice, Matt Cook could make a terrible mistake by accident and just upset your car. You kind of keep a little bit of arm's distance here from him and try to figure out where his weakness is and how can you attack it, and then start formulating that. Then hopefully you can do that, or he just makes a big mistake and you get by him, as we see Will Eastman now making a charge for third place here.
Well, we got to see Gary Eschen clip the apron ever so slightly, 2 consecutive corners, and that let Will Eastman close the gap. And then as he's trying to make a move, can't quite get it done. And that makes it to where Dustin Shepard is now going to put the pressure on Will Eastman. He goes wide, trying to set up a run down the front stretch. He's going to throw it down below, managed to get just in front of Will Eastman as he tried to get on the power. Couldn't quite get the traction he wanted, and now he has dropped back to 5th.
I think Will Eastman was a gentleman right there. I think saw that slide job coming. I think he let off the throttle so he wouldn't be destroyed there.
And honestly, we're on lap 22 of 125. These guys are keeping it tidy.
Ooh, Gary Eschnitz smoking that right rear. He is tearing it up there off of turn 3. I saw him sideways. He is heating that Hoosier up.
And that's going to be the story of the night. Is it's going to be rear traction. Because, again, while I was running laps, and I'm notorious for being hard on the rear tires, there was even wear between my right front and my right rear. So Gary Eschen driving very similar to how I would. And after 25 laps, he's probably got some blisters on that rear tire.
I mean, it didn't help as well. Like the first couple of laps, he made little mistakes there that kind of heated those tires prematurely at the beginning of the run, which really affects the way the tire wears throughout the whole entire race. I think iRacing kind of does a great job of modeling the tire wear. If you heat it up early in the heat cycle, that it really has dramatic effects for the negative aspects for the driver in a long run. So you kind of have to baby it, but also not fall too far back.
And I will say that, yes, it's good with that. And I'm seeing something. Gotta jump back here quickly. And of course, right as I do that, Dustin Shepard getting around Gary Eschen. We have caution.
Yeah, Gary gave him the okay. He's like, hey, man, go by. Gary's, I think, has a handful right now. So he let him one go by right at the wrong time.
All right, this one looks like it's being set up way before. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll it back there. Adam Gable is getting down below, but Devin Rogers has the extra run coming off the corner. And Adam Gable not quite getting the run. And the 25 just gets into him. The 47 there to finish the spin off. And I'm going to say this, no surprise, pretty much the field comes in with the exception of our leader, Matt Cook. And
he's probably kicking on himself right now.
Yes, he is. This is one of those races that I don't care when the caution comes out, I'm going in for tires.
I think he might have got it thrown off, though, just a little bit, because, I mean, by the time they caught the pace truck, they've already passed the pit lane almost. And I didn't even know they were ready to go into it, and then whenever I saw them go into it, I was like, oh, man, they're already going to pit lane. So I think they might have caught it too soon, and Matt Cook just didn't have time to recognize it.
That would be highly unfortunate for him, but he's got a few people out there with him, but he is the only person who has not pit. Everybody else is making their way in. Yeah, those Hoosiers are cooked. And it looks like Dustin Shepard may have only taken right sides. He was only in his pit for 15 seconds, and everybody else pretty much 20 seconds or longer. Yeah, I'm not 100% certain that's the case, but we'll have to wait and see, especially considering Gary Eschen, he's made 2 trips.
No, Gary Eschen's manually disconnected. He's gone, so he had enough with Concord. As the pace truck pulls off, Matt Cook will lead him to the green flag.
And we'll see if that no pit is going to hurt him. He manages to get a somewhat reasonable jump, but he's got Dustin Shepard right there on him. Ryan Johnson right behind. And now it's just going to be a matter of who's brave and wants to make the first move.
I think Dustin Shepard's going to be able to get a little bit more of a grip coming off the corner here. He's going to set him up and take him coming out of turn 3.
Ryan Johnson drops real low there, but manages to keep it there. And Dustin Shepard looking like he's going to throw it into turn one. Can't quite get there, but they are looking like they definitely have the speed and they want to get around. But difficult track to pass. You pretty much have to be setting this up for a full lap to be able to make it work. And these guys aren't quite getting it done.
He's looking like he wants to try and set something up, but the hard part about it is he's got Ryan Johnson right behind him. So if he starts to try to lay back or try to have a late apex, Ryan Johnson can throw it in there and get it by him. So there's a huge disadvantage for him right now trying to figure out exactly where does he want to run.
And Matt Cook he's pulling the Fernando Alonso right now and just keeping the pack behind him, making that car wider than 4 of these cars would be on a normal situation. But Dustin Shepard manages to get the nose down in turn 1, and that's going to be it for Matt Cook. He's got a freight train waiting to run right past him with all of these fresh tires as Ryan Johnson gets past done, and now it's time for these two to just take off. But Matt Cook, he's going to, honestly, I think he's going to be able to defend, and there's Bryan Hacker throwing down below Adam Gable, trying to take over 4th place. And these guys going side by side. The 91 gets a little bit loose out of turn 3. He hangs on to it, but he's on that outside line flirting with that wall and doing everything he can to try to hang on to that top 5. But if I'm in his shoes, I'm going to sit there and maybe try to squeeze myself in behind Mike Alexander. But now there's not room. Will Eastman's there. Robbie Clavey is there. And these guys he's probably going to end up shuffled to the back of the field. So let's go ahead, jump up here to the front as Ryan Johnson and Dustin Shepard. They are going hard right now. And they're putting a gap.
Yeah, they've already put out, quite a big gap. It's about 1.4 seconds between them and 3rd place. They're doing a fantastic job. They're about the same distance. Ryan Johnson pulls ahead just a little bit and gets to his back bumper, just like he was doing to Matt Cook. It's just nothing he can do. As we see Matt Cook in 3rd, now in 4th. He just got passed by Bryan Hacker. He made a great move to get by him, and almost cleared him now.
We have a wreck on the front stretch. Is he going to be able to get it clear before these guys come around? Yeah, he goes ahead and gets the tow quickly before we get another caution. We are starting lap 45. We only have the single caution at this point, but these guys, they're racing hard for every position they possibly can. And Matt Cook holding on. He's only dropped back to 5th at this point, and honestly, I think the tires are going to pretty much equalize within the next 2-3 laps.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. I mean, you kind of get left out there. He doesn't want to pit after the fact and go to the back of the field to start with, so he's going to he took his chances staying out there, and so far he's lost 4 spots, sitting in 5th. And these guys are fighting hard for 1st and 2nd. They got 3rd and 4th right there. They got a lot of great battles here for the 14 cars that are actually, now we're down to 12 cars that are left on the track.
But these guys up at the front, it's now over 1.5 seconds of separation that they have managed to pull off. But Bryan Hacker, not exactly going away. He and Mike Alexander just biding their time.
Yeah, right now they're running almost the exact same times as the front guys are. I mean, everybody's running right in the 17-2 bracket. So nobody's really pulling away too much. They're all kind of staying equal right now. So it's going to take a little bit longer. Let the mistakes happen. The tires heat up a little bit more as this longer run happens here, as we're already at lap 51 of 125.
And we'll go on to the back bumper of Dustin Shepard. look at that Camaro right behind him, you can see Ryan Johnson getting a lot closer to the line through in turn 1, taking turn 2 a little bit wider, getting that extra speed, as right now Dustin Shepard looking like he gets a little out of sorts out of turn 3. But all right, gotta roll back. Quick replay. Adam Gable got around Matt Cook for 5th. And it just looks like Matt Cook gets a little out of sorts with turn 3, and that's all she wrote. He's gonna go ahead, get that pass done, slot in behind him, try to hold off Will Eastman, do what he can to try to get himself back closer. But honestly, these guys just having the run that the best runs they possibly can.
We got a battle for the lead.
And of course, right as I go away, thinking, hey, this is stabilized, but these guys are going to go ahead and go side by side. Dustin Shepard's doing a great job battling on that outside, keeping Ryan Johnson back, but as they enter turn 3, that's going to be all she wrote unless he tries to cross him over, and it looks like he may try it, but no, he's not able to get the old-fashioned crossover done. Ryan Johnson takes over the lead of this race, but even with that side-by-side battling that they had, Bryan Hacker still a second back.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that long of a run. I mean, it was about a lap for side by side here at the max, and Bryan Hacker is still they're running about the same. Ryan Johnson and Bryan Hacker's last time were identical, so nothing gained, nothing lost there. But Ryan Johnson, he has a lot different braking points in the corners here than Dustin Shepard. It looks like Dustin's a little bit better in 1 and 2. Ryan Johnson really is good in 3 out of 3 right now.
And that's the best part about these kinds of tracks, is since it's not symmetrical, you can run different lines and end up with the exact same lap time, and it just makes it that much more interesting, and honestly kind of the reason why I love tracks like this myself.
I learned to like them. They're not. They don't come natural to me or easy. I have to really put in a lot of hours, a lot of time to learn the characteristic of the track, to really appreciate what it can bring to you. And sometimes I still hate it.
Well, that's what it is. But we jump back towards the back of the midfield right now, as this battle is just raging. Jeff Mathis, Matt Cook, and Robbie Clavey, these guys are just going at it. This has been building up for 15 laps at this point, to where Matt Cook, now those tires, yeah, they're definitely starting to show their age. And to make matters worse, I think Matt Cook's still going to have a pit stop in his future, unless he is in full save mode. He gets a little bit loose right there, checks up Will Eastman. Wait, no, that was Rodney Huntoon. I'm so confused because we have people lapped at this point. Yeah, that was Travis Hoefler that got checked up. But Bryan Hacker, he's closing that gap to these front 2. And I think it's all going to come down to tire savings, and probably that 2-lap battle between the front 2 is giving Bryan Hacker that opportunity to be able to close the gap down, get himself up.
I think the biggest difference right now is that Bryan Hacker's been able to run his line this whole entire time for the most part. He had to get by one person, but he wasn't really battling anybody forever like these guys up here. Dustin Shepard had to, throw it in a little bit deeper so Ryan Johnson couldn't find an attack lane. And they've been dicing it back and forth, and they're both charging the corners. They're not able to back it up and try to run their lines that they want to. They're trying to find a different fast line, a better fast line, so they're always changing things up. which, you know, puts a little bit more heat in the tires one way or another, whereas Bryan Hacker, he can, you know, back it off, let the tires cool down, and just run his race, and that kind of saves the tires in the long run.
From a second and a half back to now 0.4 of a second, he is tracking these guys down, and we're definitely starting to see the advantage of tire savings as we are on lap 70 of 125. Matt Cook makes his way into the pits. Honestly, that's probably the best time. If you have to do it, that's when you had to do it, is split it in half, get the fuel, get the tires, get yourself back out there, and try to minimize the damage.
So you see Bryan Hacker, we talk about him closing the gap. I mean, closing the gap's one thing. We've seen Ryan Johnson do that with Dustin Shepard and Matt Cook. But pass them is a whole different thing. Unless they kind of give you that green light to go by, you're going to have to find a fault, because you can catch them just as fast or faster than them. But can you find that gap to get underneath them to get the pass done?
And there's no way I'm going to give somebody the green light when I'm in the top 3. Never going to happen.
Especially, you know, these laps are ticking off right quick. I mean, we're already at laps, about to be 75 of 125. We've only seen one caution tonight. So every position matters right now.
We needed another 50 laps to where this one's going to be over quick, to where my cat won't complain because snuggle time comes earlier, but I want to see more racing, because especially this battle we have up here at the front, we've got 50 laps to go, and oh, we got a blink. That is not something you really ever want to see, especially with these kind of hard-fought battles. Ryan Johnson gets a little bit loose. That opens up the door for Dustin Shepard. Can't quite get the nose underneath, but my guess is a 38. Those tires are screaming at him right now, and we've got a lot of racing left to go to where, yeah, extra 50 laps. Ooh. Yeah.
It looks like he's having to back up the corners right now. Dustin Shepard is really closing the gap, especially in turn 3 here as he enters right now. Dustin Shepard's really closing the gap, but just nowhere to go because Ryan Johnson's filling that gap.
He's doing a good job putting that car exactly where he needs to be able to keep these guys behind him. But honestly, if I'm in Dustin Shepard's shoes, as Ryan Johnson gets a little loose coming out of turn 3, and that is going to open up the door for Dustin Shepard. They're going to go side by side. Bryan Hacker is right there waiting in the wings to take advantage of that one little mistake. But Ryan Johnson's doing a good job of carrying the speed and making it to where Dustin Shepard does not have the opportunity to run the line that he wants. But the person that is, as there is contact, Ryan Johnson and Bryan Hacker, they get a little too close, and that makes it to where Ryan Johnson can slot back into second. And the person that's most excited about all this, Mike Alexander.
Yeah, he's slowly biting off just a little bit at a time. Lap after lap here as we're closing in. We're at 82 of 125. Oh man, we see 3 different lines happening here between these guys. They all have different racing lines. We saw Dustin Shepard having to back off for Ryan Johnson because he was kind of struggling in the center of the corners here, and Ryan Johnson's now kind of forcing the issue. Bryan Hacker gives him a little bit of a love tap there coming into turn 3.
And that's what I'm loving to see right now as we get the news that apparently Dante decided to go to a concert. God forbid he want to go have fun. I mean, racing's fun. But right now, Bryan Hacker is backing off ever so slightly. I think if I'm in his shoes, I've seen Ryan Johnson struggling just a little bit with his tires. So if I back it up, just wait for the next one, I keep having to close in on him as he's not able to roll the corner like he would want to. Definitely just give him a little more space. And then when the next bobble comes, make it to where I can get a run as they touch again. Bryan Hacker not quite in the right place to be able to take advantage of it. But yeah,
I think he needs to lay off going into turn 3 because Ryan Johnson's really struggling at the center point. So if Bryan Hacker can kind of lay back just a little bit, he can get a great run out of 3. But right now he can't because he's too close to the back bumper, and when Ryan Johnson checks up, he just has nowhere to take that momentum. As we see him have a little bobble off of 1, it looks like he's trying to drive underneath him turn 3. Ryan Johnson's going to shut the door on him, but he's still going to try and carry that speed going down the front straightaway here. And to turn 1, they get side by side. Bryan Hacker still trying to keep his nose underneath him. Won't let him get down, but I think Ryan Johnson cleared him just for the time being once again.
And that's exactly it, is he needs to not be on that bumper. He's faster. What he needs to do is just go ahead, run a little bit wider of a line to where he's going to have that extra speed out of the corners as Ryan Johnson gets a little bit loose once again, and that opens the door. And Bryan Hacker, he is underneath, but not quite able to get the runs off the corner to where Ryan Johnson should be able to hold on to it just on pure speed alone. He gets a little bit of a lockup going into turn 3, and honestly, I don't think that the tires are young enough at this point that he's going to be able to completely hold that low line and hang on to where these guys are just going to keep going side by side. Dustin Shepard is going to carry off into the sunset and just let these 3 just fight it out as we're closing in on 25 laps to go. And there is just no space between these cars.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, I think the low line viability to make the pass is very challenging. The only thing that kind of really helped Bryan Hacker there was that Ryan Johnson seems like just the center of the corner. He's just struggling at the transition to get his car turned and set to go down. He's just not able to get back in the throttle as quick as Bryan Hacker did, and that's kind of where Bryan Hacker kind of chewed him away. Took him about 4 or 5 laps to get that center of the corner done, but he's finally got it. Now we see Mike Alexander peek his nose underneath him. Now it's his turn to try to use his tires. I mean, I think he's got the freshest out of the bunch. Bryan Hacker stood back there for a while trying to get by these guys and kind of burned up his stuff, whereas Mike Alexander did the same thing Bryan Hacker did, just slowly made his way up there, trying to conserve what he can so when he got up there he could battle. And now everybody's tires gone at lap 97 of 125.
And honestly, we've seen a few people dive into the pits. Honestly, we're too late. Your bet is made at this point with the tires that you have. And Dustin Shepard closing in on some lap traffic. That's going to give Bryan Hacker a chance to close. But this is where things get dicey. We have people fighting for their actual position with the leaders coming around. This is where cautions come from. And with only 26 laps to go at this point, yeah, I'm nervous if I'm the leaders.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be coming through here, and hopefully they have respect for at least the leader. Once you get to the second and third place, they won't be as, genuine as letting you by as they are with the leader. Not saying they're not going to hold you up or just give you the green pass, but the leader gets a little bit more priority than the second, third, and fourth place guys.
But the problem is do these guys have good enough tires to be able to really hold the line while people are giving him the low line. And then especially not loop it coming off of these corners, because especially out of turn one, there's a bit of a hump that, yeah, you can loop it easily, because it's basically a little ramp.
Yeah.
But these guys managing to get through the lap traffic relatively cleanly. But the thing is Ryan Johnson, he's fallen back nearly 3 seconds at this point. Yeah, he's battling with some lap traffic, but that's not going to go away for these last 20-odd laps.
Yeah, the battle on the track right now is Bryan Hacker and Mike Alexander. Those two are nose to tail right now, whereas Dustin Shepard's got a 1.3 second gap right now.
I mean, there's no denying that he's one of the fastest guys. He was the fastest in practice yesterday. Took the time, come out here, learn the car, learn the track. Granted, a practice session isn't necessarily going to give you the race experience, as we're starting to see Mike Alexander get his nose down below Bryan Hacker. Is he going to be able to get it done? He just throws it into turn 3. And Bryan Hacker tries to cross him over, but can't quite get the job done. Mike Alexander gets himself up into second. But I don't think that this fight is going to end at all for the rest of this race.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bryan might have used his stuff up trying to get past Ryan Johnson there when it was a 3-car battle. I think he would have probably went to the lead if he was able to kind of cruise by Ryan Johnson. I think he would have had something for Dustin Shepard at that point, but I think he wore his stuff out trying to be behind him and trying to find a move to make. And Mike Alexander now has the best tires on the track, and he wants to try and close the gap here. We'll check on the lap times. That last lap, Mike Alexander was a 10th quicker almost, so Mike Alexander does have the speed. But we got 15 laps to go. It's going to take a lot to get to them and then get by them with only 15 laps.
And it's going to be a long run, and these guys, honestly, there's a small part of me that would be afraid of getting the meatball for dead tires, as Mike Alexander, he is nearly 3/4 of a second clear, trying to track down Dustin Shepard. It's under a second. He may actually be capable of catching. And there is a battle side by side right now. This is Will Eastman and Jeff Mathis. It's opened up again. Of course it did. But Dustin Shepard, he is under fire from Mike Alexander. Mike Alexander was 0.2 faster on that last lap. And that gap is just shrinking.
And then we got some lap traffic come up. We see Adam Gable in front of Dustin Shepard right now. And then shortly right after that, we're going to have Rodney Huntoon come underneath fire to get lapped. So we'll see what lap traffic we'll have to play on both the first and the second place cars.
And they make it through the first wave relatively smoothly. And seeing that little bit of fresh air with 10 laps to go, Dustin Shepard is going to have to... He's going to have to defend with his life to hold on to the lead of this race, because now Bryan Hacker is closing that gap. These guys are all within a second of one another. And honestly, it's going to be the defense of his life for Dustin Shepard. He gets a little loose coming off of turn 1. That's going to open up the door for Mike Alexander. He runs wide. He's going to slam the door shut, but not completely. Mike Alexander does have the position. He has the nose below. Going into turn 1, they're side by side coming out of 1, going into 2. And Mike Alexander gets the pass done. Bryan Hacker is there waiting in the wings. He is also going to be able to cross the line in second place. That shuffles Dustin Shepard back from first to third in the course of a lap and a half.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the way he wanted to go at all, man. Dustin Shepard was cruising to the win here, and Mike Alexander finally got through everybody, cutting it through. Man, he slid the right rear tire around, trying to find some speed, and Mike Alexander came from nowhere. He was about 5 seconds back at one point to drive to the lead. I'm very impressed with him, but the race is not over. We got 5 laps to go, and Bryan Hacker is still right there, beat on the door, wanting to get by him.
And he is running basically the same lap time. So he's got to find some serious time. He's got to find about 2/10 of a second a lap. And these guys are coming up on lap traffic, and that could play spoiler as we close out this race. 3 laps to go. Will Mike Alexander be able to hang on, or will the lap traffic play a role? That is a 20 of Travis Hoefler right in front of him. And I think they're going to catch him right before this race ends.
Yeah, we've got a little over 1.5 laps left here. Bryan Hacker is just 0.3 of a second back. I mean, that is just one little mix up here, and Bryan Hacker could be right there as we got the white flag in the air. 1 caution race. Fantastic race for these guys tonight.
And we're going to go ahead and close. Bryan Hacker is close enough to throw in a last-ditch effort into turn 3. Can't quite get to the bumper. He is on the power, slides it around, but Mike Alexander takes the win. And that is tire savings early in the race at its best. Oh, these guys, again, I wanted 50 more laps. I wanted this to keep going because, man, we had a beautifully clean race, and these guys did not disappoint. We got a lot of excitement right there at the end. But Mike Alexander brings home the win, with Bryan Hacker in second, Dustin Shepard rounding out the podium, Ryan Johnson in 4th, Adam Gable 5th, Will Eastman in 6th, 7th is Jeff Mathis, 8th Robbie Clavey, 9th Rodney Huntoon, 10th Travis Hoefler, 11th is Matt Cook, 12th Devin Rogers, 13th Gary Eschen, and 14th is Dan Janjanin.
Oh man, it was a fantastic race.
Oh, I want more. But it is time to go ahead. Let's hear from tonight's winner, Mr. Mike Alexander. I gotta know, was it just tire savings?
Yeah, that's all I was trying to do. You know, I knew this place was going to eat tires up, and, you know, at 35 to go there, I was just riding. And 35 to go, I knew it was time to start trying to push forward. And a couple of them guys, they burnt their stuff up a lot more than I did, and we ended up coming away with it. I know it was going to be close there with Bryan. You know, he cooled his off and gave her a good run. It was a good race, but that's pretty much all this was just tire saving mode.
Yeah, man, you did a fantastic job. I mean, you were lurking really far back there, and we didn't know if you were going to, you know, be a player for the end, or if you're riding, if you hated this track, you know, what was your plan of attack? I mean, you were at one point about 5 seconds back, just kind of cruising, but as the tires fell off from the front pack, you just started slowly marching through. When she got in second, I didn't know if you were going to be able to get to them, and then once you get to them, I didn't know if you're going to get by them. But you proved us, you at least proved me wrong of being able to, you know, save the tire to get to them and make the pass.
Well, you know what? I do hate this track. This is not one of the places that I like to race. I'm never normally very good here, but I knew that the right rear tire was going to be a big problem if you didn't. It's so easy to get it just a little bit free through the dog leg and through the 3 and 4 there. So, you know, I think that's all this was just whoever could manage the right rear tire the best, and yeah, it seems like we came out on top.
I'll be honest, I hate that I love this track.
I can't see. I know there's a lot of people out there that love this track, but I am just not one of them. Like, yeah, I don't like the dog legs.
Honestly, it was one of those races that, honestly, if you watch this back, I wanted more. Because you guys were doing a fantastic job. It's not a track that's known for passing opportunities. Did you feel you had to set them up like for 2-3 laps beforehand?
Yeah, I figured out when I could get to them. I was running a lot easier in the corner than a lot of them guys, so I was getting a better run through one, and just kind of like lifting early and getting a huge run, and that was giving me. Well, they were kind of shoving off the corner off one that gave an opening most of the time for me, that I could just keep rolling the bottom, and yeah, it worked out. Like I said, I'm never normally that good here, so it's a miracle that it did work out.
No, it was one of those great runs, and apparently Dante decided to go to a concert so you could close up the gap ever so slightly on him. And
I know I missed last week, and I'm shooting myself in the foot, but I couldn't make it, and you know, it is what it is. But really sucks that I missed last week. Now even more.
honestly, it's still, even though Bryan Hacker was right behind you, it should be a points night that will close that second place gap. We've got 2 more weeks, and it seems like a track like Iowa next week seems to be more your cup of tea.
What's the track next week?
Iowa.
What'd you say? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I'm good there in the super late model. I like that in the super. So I've never ran there in a street stock. So we'll see how it goes. I normally like that place. So I guess we'll see what happens.
No, it was a great run. Glad to see you back on the top of the board once again. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see what Iowa holds for you next week.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, no. Have yourself a good evening and celebrate another win.
But
All right. Take care, sir.
Yep.
All right. Next, we have Bryan Hacker. Looked like things were going to be a little rough for you for a little while, but you managed to really turn on the jets late in the run.
I didn't really get anything you just said. I think my eardrums are bleeding, but
yeah, that happens.
yeah. Adam, can you translate?
So, and how were you able to save your tires? I know you made a really great run. I think you burned them up just a little bit behind when you finally caught them. You kind of burned up your tires a little bit trying to find a way to get around Ryan Johnson there, but you were able to kind of pull them off a little bit to make a last little ditch run there at the end. So how were you able to do that?
Yeah, I honestly don't think I wore them that bad. They just got hot because Ryan was making his car 18 lanes wide, and I couldn't even remotely get a run on them. So I was trying, and I was sideways, way more sideways than I was trying to catch those two. And once I finally did and tried to get under Ryan, he was blocking like crazy, and I guess I don't blame him. We were coming down to the tail end of the race there, but they got hot, and then once they cooled down a little bit, I was able to, generally speaking, keep up with Mike. I think he had a little bit better tires than me, but honestly, I don't think if we could have gotten around the 38 a little easier than we did, I think we maybe could have made a run for it.
Hopefully I'm not blowing out eardrums anymore.
There we go. That's better.
No, it definitely seemed like had we had maybe 5 more laps, Mike Alexander would have been in a little bit of trouble from you. But still, you weren't the fastest at the beginning of the run, but definitely, again, you cooled the tires down nicely and made it to where you had the speed when everybody else's were dying.
Yeah, I intentionally was not trying to have the speed at the beginning of the run. I knew that tires were going to come into play here. It was like ice skating, so Anyone that wanted to fly by me on the early run, I was letting them go, and then slowly I'd reel them back in and get around them. So that was the plan. Dustin and Ryan got way out on us, and then we were just slowly able to chip away at it, and we got to them. But Mike honestly saved a little bit better than I did, so he deserved this one.
No, this is definitely a track that I'm sure, and we'll find out soon enough from Dustin, you pretty much bank on more than one caution here. So just going ahead, tearing off into the lead that they did, it's generally a safe bet to think that another caution's coming.
Yeah, I'm glad it didn't. I was kind of hoping, we had a pretty low car count tonight. This is the lowest I think I've ever remembered NSRL being. So I thought, maybe we would run it till the end, and we did. So that's why I saved there at the beginning of that last long run. And looking at my tires now, I clearly didn't save enough. I'm about 40% more wear on the right rear than the right front.
You drive like I do here, then.
Yeah.
No, it was still a fantastic run. I wish you would have had another 10 laps to be able to really make it interesting for the win, but still perfect strategy and a second place to be able to hang on to that lead you have over Mike.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to chimp into it, but we'll see. I don't know what's going on with Dante. Kind of.
He was at a concert tonight, and according to his dad, he's grounded.
Well, I guess I'm probably old enough to maybe not be Dante's dad, but I could at least be his cool uncle. So I think I'm with Kale there. I support the grounding and probably an extra week.
No, but still, even though low car count, I will say that was probably a blessing in disguise, because the more you add here, the more passing you have, and whew, that's where the cautions come from.
Yeah, it was hairy.
But still, great run from you tonight. Keeping the points, just keeping ahead of Mike Alexander, and with a missed race from Dante, closing that gap to where next week we have Iowa, to where basically it's close to a super speedway for these cars.
Yeah, it might as well be. I'm not a big fan of super speedway type races in these cars, but Iowa at least resembles a short track enough that it's not terrible. So I'm 50-50 on next week. It's got to be better than this place they call a racetrack.
Ken, if you watch, I love this track. Well, I hate that I love it, because yes, it is a pain to drive, but that's part of why I love it.
Yeah, I like tracks that get slick, don't get me wrong. That's, I think, where I excel. I think that's maybe the dirt in me a little bit, but not tracks that get slick and are not ovular in shape.
No, but it's still a good run, good points night, closing the gap. We've got 2 races, and again, we've got Iowa next week that's only a little bit of lifting.
Yeah, it'll be a lifting just enough to not lift the rear tires of the person in front of you.
Yeah. But all right, congratulations on a second, and enjoy the evening, sir.
Hey, thanks, you too, guys.
All right, and then finally, when I can find him, our third place finisher, Mr. Dustin Shepard, who apparently I interrupted a conversation.
Yeah, we're talking about flipping houses. So.
Oh, yeah, no.
That's definitely the usual conversation after a race, flipping houses.
Got to pay bills somehow.
Yeah, that is very true, and it's lucrative if you do it right.
It can be, yes.
But
a little tricky market right now, though.
I will give you that. But third place tonight, it looked like you had the speed, but maybe we're banking on another caution to be able to save the tires?
Yeah, I really I needed another caution. I was short on fuel, so I babied the throttle a lot. So I let Ryan by early in the run, followed him for a little bit. I was good like 2 or 3 laps. So I got back into it again and went by him. And like I said, and I played fuel game the whole time there. And then like with 10 to go, 8 or 9 to go, 10 to go, it just went away. Like I was good, and all of a sudden it was like it was gone. It was, I didn't slide it too much with the big wide sweeping turn, but yeah, it literally just went away. Said a caution with like 20 or 30 to go, I would have went in. Everybody would have took tires, and I mean I would have been fine because I was fast on fresh tires. But
yeah, that you were. I do believe. Oh no, you didn't. You were 2/10 off of the fastest lap, but second fastest lap.
Not bad.
But
I mean, you did a fantastic job, though. I mean, you were out there leading the way, like you said, and you were doing great. And I hate to see it whenever I'm out front, and then next thing you know, the car out of nowhere just says, "I'm done, man." Just stick a fork in me. Like, let's just pack it up. I don't even finish the rest of the race. You don't want to at this point.
Oh, it was They were doused in oil. It felt like I couldn't even roll in the corner. Like not even on throttle. It was spinning or sliding sideways. I was like, well, I just gotta nurse it home and finish wherever it finishes at this point. But luckily, like Ryan blew his tires off. Of course, I saw Mike coming. I saw like in my mirror, I saw him get by Hacker. And I was like, he's coming. I was like, he's 1.2 away. He's 1.1. He's 9/10. I'm like, and then I started sliding. I was like, he's coming. I can't do nothing about it.
No, it's one of those things that I said it earlier. You could tell that you guys were probably banking on that extra caution. Concord is good for it normally.
Yes. Normally, but I said car count was a little low, so there wasn't a bunch of cars on the track. And like I said, and everybody mind their P's and Q's, pretty good. So
no, it was a great race, and I wanted more.
Yeah, I needed a caution. That's what I needed, and I'd have been good.
If they would have had like 15 more laps, then everybody would have split that run up, and you wouldn't have wore your tires out that way.
That's true too. I said if we had more laps, we could have split it, but we were running to the end with one pit stop. If it fell at the right time, which it fell right at the right time, lap 30 something I think, or late 20s, and that, you can make it on one stop.
Yeah, it was perfectly timed to make it on fuel, but yeah, no, tires are just chewed in this, and it's a rare track that it's the right rear that causes the problems.
Oh yeah, it definitely wears down. It's a lot of load on that right rear. The car's always yawed out and just putting all the load on that tire.
But still, great run from you. You had the speed, cautions didn't come, and again, I was fully expecting one more.
I thought I was going to get one, so I was watching the group race in front of me. I was like, they're bouncing off each other, they're sideways. I was like, I need it, but it didn't happen.
Still, great run from you. You get another podium. Next week, we're off to Iowa, to where it's going to be an interesting one.
It'll put on a good show. It's of course it's a lot of drafting, but handling comes into play a little bit, so it can spread out.
No, it'll be a great one with 2 more to go, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you have for us. But again, another podium, and you can't complain about that.
Not at all, Sid. Top 3s all day long. I'll take it.
Thanks, man. Well, hey, good. Overall, great night for you, like you said. Come away for the top 3 with the car that just want to die on your last 10 laps. We'll take that momentum. See you next week in Iowa.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. Take care, sir.
Yeah. You have a good night.
All right. That is going to do it for us. A relatively short race when it comes down to it, but still Great racing from these guys tonight. Next week we have Iowa, which is basically the antithesis of this track, to where draft heavy, a whole lot more throttle going into these cars, and I'm looking forward to it. But that'll do it for us here at Ghostfire Media with the North-South Racing League. Everyone have yourselves a good evening.
Thank you for watching iRacing on the Ghostfire Media Network.